I would like to talk about keeping your well-being while using your emotions as an actor. Do you sometimes struggle with how far is too far when dealing with your emotions in the art form of acting? In this video, I'm going to explore something that I feel is very important when exploring your emotions in art. How to develop a healthy relationship with your emotions so your art flourishes and your mental well-being stays intact. So in the heart of every powerful performance lies one essential ingredient that we all know about as actors: emotion. Most likely, if you become an actor, you're not necessarily afraid of emotions. It might be a tearful monologue, a burst of rage, or the ache of unspeakable longing. The ability to access and express authentic emotions, it's one of the things that makes acting so great. But there can be a hidden danger. It's something that many actors at one point or another may silently struggle with. In other words, how do you use deep, painful emotions without letting them use you? How do you stay open and still maintain the joy of acting, the joy of artistry, while you open up these different parts of yourself? The first thing I'd like to discuss about it is emotions are tools for the actor, not weapons. So here's the first thing to remember when you're using your emotions to serve art. Emotions are not the enemy in art. In fact, they are the most important tools for the actor. The key is to learn to treat them as such. And I'd just like to point out, I don't want to harp on it too much, but many of you may have experienced this in your travels trying to find an acting studio to study at, or a teacher. You heard this is a great teacher and you went to the class, or you went to audit the class, or you participated in the class, and there was a sense of maybe toxic energy emotionally, like maybe a little bit abusive. I feel like this is so unfortunate that teaching the art form of acting should have any of that type of toxicity. It is so destructive to young, impressionable actors who really have a passion for learning the craft to feel beat up and criticized and abused. This is absolutely not what I feel is going to help make you a better actor, to have yourself being beat up all the time emotionally. It is not artful. Now just put that out there, and hopefully you have not experienced anything like that as an actor. If you have, you're not alone. And hopefully you recover and find a healthier way to work as soon as humanly possible. So let's clear all this up in terms of talking about emotions in relationship to the acting craft. Too often, actors might associate emotional pain with artistic truth. They dig into personal traumas, crack open old wounds for the sake of a real performance. Sometimes this can be effective, but what I learned in my journey as an actor is that just opening up your personal raw stuff and not really taking into consideration how you lift parts of yourself into your imagination to serve the character, that type of stuff only takes you so far. And it could lead to being overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, emotional instability, and ultimately being burned out. What my mentor Susan Batson told us was to always be in touch with the joy of acting, even if you're going somewhere emotionally so deep The joy of acting should never leave you. You always have to remember what you're doing it for, and that you're using it as a tool to serve something larger, to serve the character, to serve art. And in art, there's always joy, and you're never alone in art, even if the character is profoundly alone. She also said, keep the drama on the stage, not in your life. I thought that was brilliant. And in fact, you might relate to this. The more you act, the less drama you actually wind up having in your life. Hopefully, if you're treating yourself well and using your emotions in a healthy way. The other thing to keep in mind is not everything that you experienced in your life is up for grabs in the art of acting. Some things are too close to the surface, or they're too recent, or you haven't processed them fully yet. They're too overwhelming, and you don't have to use them. That's why Lee Strasberg, one of the giants in the art form of acting, said, usually it's good to wait about 7 years before you use something for the work. I feel like there might be some flexibility there, and if you know yourself well enough, you know that, oh, this is something that I feel like I've processed to the point where I can bring it in and I can give it to the character and I feel safe. That's the most important thing, is to know that if you're truly in art, you are always safe. Even if you're going to deep emotional places, if you don't feel that sense of safety in the art form, you're probably pushing too hard and potentially crossing that line into an unhealthy space. So another thing that I recommend you do is take the time and the space for yourself as an actor to sit down and really look at your emotional toolbox. It gives you more control over the situation. In other words, everything that we've been through in our lives and the emotions that we've felt in our lives as human beings are raw material tools for the craft of acting. So just like a painter sits down before they start their painting and they do an inventory of all the different paints that they have in their kit, the different colors that they have, the different pencils, brushes, all of those things are tools that a painter needs to use to create their masterpiece. It's a similar thing for the actor, but we don't have a box of stuff. We have all these things that are inside of us. But what's healthy to do is to sit down and, even before you get to a specific character that you're working on, make a list of all the different choices that you have in your toolbox. Painful memories, sad memories, happy memories. It's not just sadness and rage. Happiness is part of the craft too. Some characters are happy. Love, relationships, people, experiences, sensations. You can do your acting emotional inventory in a journal and decide. It's up to you to make a decision about what stuff you feel is safe and healthy for you to use. Journaling can be a wonderful beginning creating and organizing your colors and your brushes and your tools. The other thing that I think is extremely essential and very important is to create a clear boundary for yourself between your work on the character and your personal life. There might be times when you're working on an extremely volatile character, filled with rage, filled with grief. You could be working on Hamlet. You could be working on Lady Macbeth. You could be working on Othello. These are some of the most volatile and tragic characters that exist in the English language. The most important thing that you can do to take care of yourself is to create a real boundary. When you're sitting down and working on the character, you've made that decision, you set a time limit. When you go to rehearsal, you do what you have to do to open up the stuff that you need for the character. And then when it's over, you stop. You remind yourself that you're an artist. You remind yourself that you love acting. And then you put it away and you allow yourself to go back to your real life. There's a great example of this from a time where I was on a set, and I'm not going to mention her name, but she was a really prominent actress. Everybody was excited to see what she was going to bring onto the set that day, and nobody saw her for the whole day because she was getting ready to do her scene, and she wasn't one to socialize and chit-chat and stuff like that. And then there was this sense of anticipation, and when she came onto the set, it was just powerful, deep, emotional work and wonderful stuff, and she got a huge round of applause after the take. Then maybe 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes went by after she was all finished. All of a sudden, we saw her come out of the trailer just completely back to her civilian self with her dog, smiling and socializing. I thought this was such a great example of creating a separation and a boundary between your artistic work on the character and your personal life. The last thing I'd like to mention is, and this is part of creating a boundary, is separating your self-worth from your work. This might be the most important thing. You are so much more than your performance. It is easy to let the highs and lows of acting define your sense of self-worth. Applause feels like we're receiving love. Messing up a take feels like we're a failure. But a real healthy approach to your work is reminding yourself that you are okay, even if your character is not. Give yourself permission to play and experiment, make mistakes. Acting is not therapy, it's art. And when you approach it with emotional integrity, boundaries, and self-love and self-compassion, acting can be the most healing, enjoyable thing in the entire world. So in conclusion, being an emotionally available actor is a gift, but treat it like a gift by treating it with care and treating yourself with care. Remember, you don't have to really draw blood for your art. You just have to open yourself up to feel and feel honestly. When you're acting and when you're in the art form, you're not alone. You have your scene partner, you have the director, you have all of your collaborators. You're not doing it in a vacuum. It is a collective experience. And with the right tools, with the right support, and the right awareness, you can craft breathtaking performances and stay grounded and healthy in your life. This is your instrument. Take care of your instrument. They're your paintbrushes, but you are the artist. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Click on the description below for links to our website as well as our free weekly newsletter. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.